find a comfortable position, close your eyes, and give yourself a break from everything that came before this moment, because now we turn to the commandments that are familiar to you, from childhood to the 10 words which were engraved on stone tablets, but now we will look at them differently, not in the external prohibitions, but as the signs leading inside, in the depth, where there is a real human life, and start with the first and most obvious: do not kill. And if you hear these words outside their meaning is clear and simple, impossible to deprive another person of life, this ban, which is the basis of any human society, but when Christ came, he took this commandment and plunged it deep into the heart and said that the killing starts there, where no one sees, where no knife and no blood, where you are born hatred, brother, where you let the anger control you, where you look down on another with contempt. And at this moment, in this internal motion, you're already committing murder in your heart, because you already killed my ability to see this man in the image of God. And the fulfillment of this commandment, in the gospel sense, is not merely abstention from physical violence. It is an active work on their inner life, is the practice of avoiding anger when you catch yourself irritation and not allow it to grow. It is the desire to reconcile with people, not waiting until they make the first move. It is a refusal to nourish hatred, even when you think you have every right to do. And the difficulty here is that anger arises instantly. It does not ask permission. He just flashes like a match, and you already can't help myself. And ways of overcoming this difficulty you might already know from previous practices. Silence in a moment of annoyance, when you just don't open your mouth, until the first wave subsides. The prayer is short, like a sigh, and the recollection of personal sin, when you realize that he is in need of mercy, is not less than the one who made you angry. And the next commandment, thou shalt not commit adultery, outwardly speaks about fidelity in marriage, about the prohibition of adultery. And this is also important. It is the foundation of the family. But Christ goes deeper. He says that adultery is committed already when a person looks at another with lust, when impure desires are born in the mind, when fantasy, he begins to draw forbidden images. And here, it's not just about physical action, but about what happens inside, how a person treats his heart. And fulfilling this commandment in its entirety is keeping his thoughts pure, its faithfulness not only to the body, but also to the mind, its chastity that does not it is suppression, but it is freedom from the bondage of lust. And the difficulty here is enormous, because imagination, habits, and the entire surrounding culture constantly push a person in the other direction, and this is overcome not by prohibitions, but by avoiding tempting circumstances when you know your weaknesses and just don't get close to them, by keeping your attention when you learn to notice the first thoughts and not linger on them, and by maintaining prayer, which cleanses the mind and gives it back the ability to see another person not as an object for satisfaction, but as a person. The third commandment, thou shalt not steal, outwardly seems very simple. Do not take someone else's. But if you look into the depths, it speaks about much more. It is directed against greed, against that state of mind when everything is not enough for a person, when he is ready to take what belongs to another, not because he needs it, because he wants to have more. And fulfilling this commandment, in the evangelical sense, is not just honesty in business, it's honest work when you don't look for easy ways. It's justice in dealing with people when you don't exploit others. And it's helping those in need when you don't save up for yourself alone, but you share. And the difficulty here is that the desire to have more than others sits very deep in the human heart, and it is overcome by gratitude for what you already have. When you stop and start counting your blessings, not what you don't have, and generosity, which can be trained starting with small things, and alms, which opens the heart and frees from the power of things. The fourth commandment, thou shalt not perjure thyself, outwardly prohibits lies and slander, but more deeply it says that lying destroys not only trust between people, but also the very soul of a person. Because when you lie, you split yourself, you cease to be whole, and the fulfillment of this commandment is the habit of telling the truth. It's a refusal to spread rumors. It's a conscious avoidance of gossip that seems harmless, but actually poisons relationships. And the difficulty here is that a person often lies out of fear of punishment or condemnation, or out of a desire to look better than they are, and is overcome by the courage to admit their mistakes when you learn to say, yes, I was wrong without self-justification. And gradually, the habit of honesty becomes second nature. The fifth commandment, thou shalt not covet another man's, looks outwardly like a continuation of the prohibition on theft, but it goes even deeper, because it concerns not actions, but the innermost desires. It prohibits envy, which, it would seem, does not harm anyone except the envious person himself. But in fact, envy corrodes the world. Of course, it makes a person unhappy at the sight of someone else's happiness. And the fulfillment of this commandment is gratitude when you learn to enjoy what you have, and joy for others when you look at your neighbor's success not with pain, but with sincere participation. And the difficulty here is that modern culture is built based on comparison, on the endless, he's better than me. And this is overcome by remembering your blessings, when you consciously switch your attention from what you don't have to what you already have, and avoiding constant comparisons that only poison your soul. The sixth commandment, honor your father and mother, stands apart from these prohibitions because it speaks of a positive attitude, love and respect for those who gave you life. And this is respect, gratitude, and caring for parents, even when they become infirm or uncomfortable. And the difficulty here is that family relationships are often difficult, with pain, resentment, and misunderstanding. And this is overcome by patience, when you do not expect your parents to change, but accept them for who they are, and forgiveness when you let go of old resentments, and a desire for peace, even if you need to do it, the first step. The seventh commandment, thou shalt have no other gods, and the eighth, do not make yourself an idol, and the ninth, thou shalt not take the name of God in vain, and the 10th, I remember the day of rest. They were all talking about one thing, that God should be the center of life, that nothing in this world, no money, no power, no success, no fun, not intended to take the place which belongs to Him alone, and that His name should be pronounced with reverence and not in vain. And what does He need time to stop, to get out of this cycle and to stand before that, who is the source of everything? And now, when you hear all these commandments, you can see how Christ has transformed the Decalogue. He did not cancel any of these commandments. He took them and moved from the level of actions at the level of the heart, and it turned out that the old level said, "Thou shalt not kill," as the Gospel says, "Don't be angry." The old said, "Do not commit adultery," but the Gospel says, "Keep pure thoughts," the old said. "Thou shalt not steal," as the Gospel says. Free yourself from greed, and it's not tougher, it's liberating. Because when you're working with the root, the fruit is corrected itself when purified heart, hands cease to do evil, and the whole moral life of the Christian, if you collect it in a single formula that is built around 2 commandments that have already been given to you, the love of God and love of neighbor, because all the other commandments and the ancient 10 and the 9 Beatitudes and all the instruction of the apostles, it's just a specific manifestation of this love, different facets of the same diamond, different ways in which love manifests itself in the world. And now, in silence, let yourself feel that these commandments are not a burden, and the wings is that they do not restrict your freedom and release you from that makes you a slave. And when you're ready, open your eyes and come back into the world, but know that you carry this understanding. The law of the external and the internal law is one staircase leading to one and the same, to the fullness of love.